Joel Fritz here today. We're going to talk about the maintenance items that are important on a Cat small dozer. Now, we've talked about the daily maintenance we do, where we walk around the machine every morning first thing before we start, but these are things that we want to pay close attention to on a periodic basis to keep our operation of our machine running correctly and also helping reduce our owning cost. One of the first things we always want to pay attention to is the cutting edge, right down here at the bottom of the blade. You'll notice this particular cutting edge has grooves cut in it. These are wear indicators that help the operator identify when the cutting edge is worn to the point where the indicator is at, and it tells us it's time to either rotate or replace the cutting edge. The primary thing, we do not want it to wear past the wear indicator too far and wear into part of the structure of the blade, which is called the blade support. Okay, today we want to continue on and show you some of the maintenance points on the new D1, D2, and D3. All the things we're going to be talking about are common on each of those three models. So one of the things the operator always needs to do on a weekly basis or as needed is be sure they lubricate all the Zerk fittings on the blade linkage of the machine. This machine is very simple. It only has 12 Zerk fittings. 12 Zerk fittings, 6 on each side. So this is, I always like this to start up at the front of the machine, give it a couple pumps for that point, and you're all done. There's one located on the end of this cylinder rod, one here on the end of the tilt cylinder, other end of the angle cylinder, and then two right here on this lift cylinder, one right here and one right up there. And that's all necessary to take care of your greasing on the new D1, D2, and D3. Okay, we're going to take a look at some of the other maintenance that is required on the new Cat D1, D2, and D3 today. Remember, we moved the maintenance for the machines from the left-hand side over to the right-hand side of the machine. So these points have moved to this side right here. Simply open up that access door. Also, we have a removable panel we can take off right here and lay this down. And this is extremely helpful when we go in and do our maintenance for our oil change. The filter is located right here in this area, so you have good access to remove this cap, drop your new element in there, add your oil right here in this area, and then go back in and check the level right here with the dipstick. Notice we've gone to a new radial type design air filter. Very easy access to this filter. All we have to do is just remove these latches that are painted yellow on the sides here. There's 4 of them, and note the position of the end cover for this filter, where it's at right now. The Cat is horizontal here, and the dust outlet is located down here at the bottom. Want to remember that when we put the cap back on, because it is a time type cap. We'll just lay this right up here, and then we very easily can remove the filter. Okay, pull it straight out. This is your primary filter. Notice right inside here, this is a notched filter, meaning it's timed. So if you remember how this is made, it'll be more understanding when you go back to install the filter on the machine. This is your secondary filter. This should be changed, replaced every 500 hours. So this is not designed to be reused or cleaned. You take it off after 500 hours and throw it away. This filter right here, you need to remove it and clean it or replace it as needed based on the indicator inside the cap. So we go back, put that back on. Note, try to start out with it kind of horizontal like that. There we go. Even notice with me is a little bit tricky in getting it back on. You just have to twist it around, adjust it a little bit, get it slotted and timed up, push it in, and you're good to go. Then take your cover, be sure the dust outlet duct is at the bottom and Cat is horizontal. Place that back on, move it around a little bit, be sure it's timed correctly, and then you can take the yellow tabs and very easily fasten it on. The key thing is just being sure you have your time marks back correctly and you're back ready to go. We'd like to talk a little bit about the undercarriage on a Cat small dozer. The undercarriage represents about 50% of the operating cost of a dozer. So it's very important we do everything we can to maintain that undercarriage to keep our operating cost as low as possible. One of the things that's very easy to do is be sure that we're operating the track with the correct amount of track sag. And when we say track sag, we're talking about the amount of drop or sag between the top carrier roller of the undercarriage and the top of the undercarriage over the center of the idler at the front of the machine. So that amount of slag is what we would measure right in here between this distance right here. This is about the maximum drop we have. So simply, we just need some kind of device, either a straight edge. In this case, I've used just a string with some weights on the end to pull across that area. And then I could just take a ruler and measure and see how much sag I have. In this case, it looks like it's a little over an inch. The min and maximum range for sag is between 2 and 2.5 inches on this size dozer. So we could afford to loosen the track up a little bit to optimum range to maximize our undercarriage wear. And we'll go and take a look at that in just a minute here. We just determined that we need to increase the amount of track sag on this particular machine we just measured. So how do we go about doing that? Well, it's very simple. What we do is come to this side of the track roller frame. There's a cover located right here with some warning decals on it. We just take a wrench, in this case a 16mm wrench, just loosen these bolts up. And we're going to remove this cover, and you'll see here in a minute that inside the cover is a relief valve and then also a zerk fitting located right in here. And to loosen the zerk fitting up, that will reduce the amount of grease that's in this cylinder, cause the idler to retract, and give us more track slag to loosen our track up. Now, if we had measured the track and it was too loose and we needed to tighten it up, we would have used our grease gun, placed the fitting over the zerk fitting, and pumped some grease into it to extend the rod and push the idler out towards the front to tighten the track up. So everything done to adjust your track is done in this area behind this cover, either by loosening this nut to release some of the grease or adding more additional grease there. One of the most important areas you've really got to pay attention to on the undercarriage of a dozer is the pin and bushing, because that's where the wear takes place, where the bushing actually engages with the root of the sprocket right here. And that initial engagement around about the 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock orientation on the sprocket when you're moving forward is where the majority of your wear takes place. So as wear takes place, we need to be sure we're watching that, observing it, because we don't want it to wear too far and cause the component, being the bushing, to fail. So on most undercarriages, the conventional undercarriage is called a sealed and lubricated track, or sometimes referred to as salt undercarriage. What that means is we have a pin and a bushing. This bushing is pressed into a link assembly here, and it does not turn. That bushing is fixed in this link assembly. So as it wears or contacts that sprocket, it will actually wear. And when it wears down to a certain depth, the structural integrity of the bushing is weakened, and we need to do what we call a pin and bushing turn, where we take the track, press it apart, rotate the bushing 180 degrees, and press all the components back together and have a new wear surface. The key thing you want to watch on that is be sure you don't let this bushing wear too far down to where it will develop a crack and you start to lose the lubricant, and then it will start to fail. We also have another type of undercarriage to alleviate being bushing limited in wear, and that is called our abrasion type track. And with the abrasion type track, this bushing is not fixed, it will actually rotate. Now in this cartridge, you'll notice this is one piece. There's two collars on each side with seals in between, and this bushing will actually rotate when it engages the sprocket, and that reduces the wear. It is not fixed. So this is a very beneficial type undercarriage to use where you're in bushing limited area or materials such as sand or very abrasive soil conditions. So two different types of track. Salt, which is the one we showed earlier right here. Bushing does not rotate. And this one is our abrasion track where the bushing does rotate. Always be sure you're watching and looking at these different components to be sure they do not wear too far to where they're destructive, and it will cause you additional owning and operating costs. On all Cat Dozers, we use what we call a planetary final drive. Planetary comes from the term there's a sun gear in the center and planet gears around the outside that spread the load over multiple gears. This is a very important component to watch as far as oil sampling. Every 500 hours or so, it's recommended that you take an oil sample, and how you would go about doing that and also check your oil level is, first off, be sure this horizontal line on the face of the cover is horizontal with the ground or parallel with the ground. Simply remove this plug, take a quick oil sample, and also check for oil level. Be sure there's a little bit there that will just run out, or you can add some lubricant as called out in the owner and operator's manual. Dozers are always working in the dirt, and it's natural that material buildup occurs on top of the track roller frame in this area right here. This little device is the most important tool you can use to help reduce your operating cost: shovel. We want to always be sure that we're keeping that material shoveled out in this area, because the addition of soil, material, contact, and movement or speed of that undercarriage is what causes wear. Increased wear costs you money. So always be sure that your operators are using a shovel to keep this area cleaned out all the way from the front idler all the way back to the sprocket. And with that today, we appreciate your time. And if you have any questions about what we've talked about today on maintenance of Cat small dozers, please contact your local Cat dealer.